Hello, Flosstube! I'm Roz. This is Roz Clark Craft here on YouTube. You can also find me as Roz Clark Craft on Instagram and on Etsy. Welcome back. Welcome if you're new here. Welcome back if you're a returning visitor. It is a little while, slightly longer than I normally go between Flosstubes. It has been a mad, crazy, busy time. Mostly with work in the last few weeks, and I'm just catching up. And because it's been a little while, it turns out I have about 450,000 billion things to talk about. So you may want to get a cup of tea. I've got a cup of tea. Oh, I've also got a sewing bra strap. There we go. My mother would be horrified. Fortunately, she doesn't watch my Flosstube. You may want to get a cup of tea. You certainly will want to have your stitching and prepare to make some good progress because I think we are going to be here for a while. So first off, most exciting, new release. So this is not completely new to the channel. You have seen me talk about this before, but it is now fully finished in a frame. And the chart is available to purchase in my Etsy shop, Roz Clark Craft on Etsy. I will put the link below. This is my chart celebrating the curiosity and invention and ingenuity and scientific endeavour of women. It's called Mothers of Invention. I'm glad to have got it out now because I think, it's about a month, I think, until Mother's Day, maybe a bit less. But it's quite a quick stitch. And if you have a mother who would love this, I think you probably have time to do it. If you've got a mother who works in science or engineering or, just enjoys those kind of things, this I think would be a really fun Mother's Day present. But obviously it's not just for mothers and it's not just for Mother's Day. It's Mothers of Invention in the broadest sense. With this pattern, I can't remember if I mentioned this with Spinsterhood, which is the previous one in this series, but with both of these patterns, the sort of last page of the chart gives you a list of, in this case, all the women whose inventions are celebrated on the pattern. And I did just want to mention some of those because some of these are a little bit, controversial is not quite the word, debated, perhaps, not absolutely clear. So, for example, if you were to look up, these are little cotton buds alongside. If you were to look up cotton buds in Wikipedia, they will tell you that cotton buds were invented by a man. But then it will go on and say by a man who had watched his wife, a woman, one presumes, making such things by hand at home, and then thought, oh, I know, I could go and manufacture those in the factory and patent them. So there's that. But also there was some debate or controversy even at the time, the woman who claimed that actually she had invented these things previously. And it was the man who'd managed to, make them financially successful, but actually she came first. Now, I haven't done all the research. I can't tell you the ins and outs of the legal case. But what I do know is there is a long history of men taking credit for female inventions and scientific discoveries. There is no history of women taking credit for men's inventions and scientific discoveries. So I tend to think that if there was a case that was brought, it is by far more likely that it was the woman who was in the right of it and the man who managed to claim it for himself. I cannot conceive of the circumstance where a woman, seeing something that a man had invented, would think it worth her while to begin to try to claim that she had any right over that. So I have assumed that probably they were invented by a woman. Similarly, there are some other things here. So this, for example, obviously this is Monopoly, more or less. A woman didn't invent Monopoly, but a woman did invent the first board game, which was quite similar to Monopoly. And then some years later, a man tweaked it, called it Monopoly, made a fortune. Who's the inventor? I say it's the woman who came first, you know, refining and tweaking, and he may well have made it a better game. I still think Monopoly is pretty, you know, it's pretty low down on my list of board games, but nonetheless. But actually, who came up with the original idea of a game of this sort? Well, it was a woman. So she's the one I'm going to celebrate. And there are some others here as well. You know, Rosalind Franklin, who was involved in the work to discover the structure of DNA. Her male colleagues got Nobel Prizes. So I'm giving her all the credit in my cross-stitch pattern. And I think it is true that she was the one who sort of worked out this sort of structure for the sort of shape of DNA. So yeah, I have chosen to give women the benefit of the doubt here, because so often in history they were not given the benefit of the doubt. I also want to make, this is slightly tangential, but to me it relates a lot. I want to make a recommendation for a book. It's a historical romance. It's by Courtney Milan, who's just a brilliant historical romance author, I think. But I particularly want to recommend The Countess Conspiracy, which is one of my favourite of hers for all kinds of reasons. But in particular, it celebrates this history of women whose work was credited to men. And in the book, there are two different women whose work is at times credited to men for different reasons. And one of those women gets to a point where she's able to come out publicly and say, actually, it's mine. And the other isn't. And yeah, we just don't know actually how many women were involved in not just involved in, but actually leading scientific discoveries and inventions, and were not credited for that. So this is part of my attempt to give women some of that credit back. I think I mentioned this previously. The chart comes with two alternatives for stitching the woman and the child. If you wanted to use, you know, a realistic skin tone, it shows you where you would do that. And if you have different skin tones, if you want to put in facial features, if you want to give them shoes, there's also a blank outline of the woman and child. So if you wanted to colour them in and work out an entirely different, you know, outfit or appearance or whatever for them, you can do that and know that it will still fit within the space on the chart. So that is Mothers of Invention. That is available currently only in PDF form from my Etsy shop. I will let you know if that changes. One thing I did want to mention, honestly, so I knew I was going to do more than one in this series. This is the first one, Spinsterhood. I'm calling this, by the way, my Fierce Ladies series. And I thought I had sufficiently large piece of fabric. Well, I did have a sufficiently large piece of fabric that I would be able to stitch all three, because there's another one coming, on the same piece of fabric. So then when I'd ordered this frame and I really liked it. So I thought, well, I'll order two more exactly the same for the other two. And then I was like, well, why does this one have a much bigger border than this one? Weird. Charts are exactly the same size. Anyway, turns out I stitched them on different fabrics. So this was stitched on 32 count and this was stitched on 36 count. I'm not changing the frames. If you are planning to do the whole series, I recommend you stitch them on the same fabric, or at least the same stitch count, honestly. Anyway, just to say, this is charted. There are just 4 colours in this, and it's charted in DMC and stitched in DMC. Obviously, you can substitute whatever you like. But it makes for it's a really nice fun stitch actually, because it's not heavy coverage, you've not got masses of colour changes, it's very blocky, but yeah, very satisfying to stitch, I found. So there we go, Mothers of Invention. Right, what else have we got? Well, I have been finishing things and fully finishing things. If you are not following on Instagram, the FFO Challenge 23, I think that's right, might be 2023. You should. It's brilliant. It's Michelle from Penny's Daughter Shares and Jen from Jen Loves Quilting, I think. And they both have got a pile of finished stitch pieces that they hadn't made up into fully finished items, and we're like, we need some motivation to do this. But actually, it's just a really wonderful hashtag to follow because it's full of inspiration for how you might fully finish your objects. I don't have a big stash. I have a couple of things that are not currently fully finished, one of which was, and then I wanted the frame for something else, so I took it out, and the other, I don't know that I actually want it on display anywhere, so that's fine. But actually, my challenge is to fully finish things as I finish them. That's what I want to do this year. I don't want to build up a stash of finished things. Anyway, so this is the first. You've seen this piece before. This is Berry Patch, heavily adapted from Hello from Liz Matthews pattern to make it into a circular shape, and also to use my own choice of colours. That was inspired by Mariam of Marumi Crafts wildcard birthday stitch along, to take a pattern and really go wild with it. So all I've done with this finish is I've put it in a hoop. I was thinking about painting the hoop, I was thinking about wrapping the hoop, and then I just had it on a table with this mini pink pom-pom trim, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. Okay, I can't hold it. Let's hold it this way again so you can see it. So that's all I've done, is just glued the pom-pom trim to the hoop, and I'm very happy with that as a finish. So that was good. And then the other one, so this is, I think, a start and a finish since I last chatted to you. This is the wren from the Button Up Birdie series. These were a couple of charts that I'd picked up in a charity shop last year. There were 4 of them. The pattern is actually bigger than this. It goes up like this, and it has some embroidery of like a branch with flowers and leaves and stuff on it. But for this, I decided I wanted to do the little wren having a bath. And so it's very quick to stitch. You can see it's very small. And the finish I did was all glued. I don't love gluing stitched pieces. I get anxious about it. I know that people use acid-free glue and acid-free tape, and it's all fine, but it just makes me a bit anxious. But for a little tiny piece like this, I was like, you know what, it's fine, just do it. So all I did was you can see I fringed the edges of the linen. So I just took out one strand all the way around to make a square, cut the square, and then just pulled the extra threads out to make those fringed edges. It is then stuck onto a piece of cardboard. It's not even matte board, just ordinary cardboard behind. And partly that's just to secure the fringing and the stitching, and partly to give it a flat surface so that these bits of wood are not even in height. Well, perhaps they're more even than I thought they were, but they're not completely even. So I just thought it would be easier to stick it down if I had a just a cardboard back on the piece. And then all I've done is glued the little bits of wood to the big bit of wood and glued the thing of not hot glue. I hate hot glue. I know it's useful in some situations. It is not good glue. That is what I really want people to know. It's very good for sticking quickly. Things will adhere to it straight away. It's not good for sticking permanently. Things will fall off if you hot glue them, just saying. So use a wet glue if you possibly can. Tacky glue is good if you're looking for something a bit quicker. This is just ordinary PVA, but it's, you know, it's fine. I just glued it and then put something on top and left it overnight. It's completely fine. These are not coming off. So that's fine. Little wren having a bath, just a little sort of rustic finish. It's not hanging up. I've got it, well, you'll see. I meant to say, at the end of this video, I have filmed sort of 15-20 minute tour of my cross stitch storage and organization and gallery walls. I've had a few days off at the beginning of this week, and one of the things I wanted to do was reorganize the craft stuff that I keep in the house. I have a lot of yarn, but I can't knit or crochet at the moment. I've got a problem with my hand that makes that difficult. And so the yarn's just sitting there making me feel sad. So I've moved all of that out of the way. I've reorganized therefore my cross stitch stash. You'll get a tour of that and you'll see where this is on display. So those are the two fully finished objects since the last time I saw you. I do want to show you just one more thing. I finished this maybe 18 months ago, but it has not been in my possession for the last year, and it just was returned to me yesterday. So it is going to go back up on the wall because I do really love it. I think it's got a bit dirty. Anyway, let me show you. So this was the thing I produced. The Church of England were doing a lengthy process of discussions and thinking about sex and relationships and that kind of stuff. And we were invited to submit creative responses. And one of the things that I found quite difficult about all the materials is it seemed to suggest that if you were not in a sexual relationship, somehow that was, you know, the worst possible kind of life that you could have. And I just want to say, do you know, it's not. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So anyway, celibacy is okay, actually. Is one of the things I submitted various things, but this was the cross stitch piece and I really like it and it is going back on my wall. This was available as a free chart on my website, but my website is now defunct. So this isn't currently available anywhere. If you would like to stitch Celibacy is Okay, actually, let me know in the comments and I will see if I can add it and upload it as a freebie via my link tree. There are 2 freebies currently available. There's the winter jack and there's all the single ladies. So I could definitely add this. I think if I still have the pattern, I will do that. But let me know if you would like that. But I like this. I like the finish of it. I like the sort of zigzag that I just did with machine stitch and the polka dot and the rickrack. Simple flat finish with a little hanging tag. Right, works in progress. Let's keep going. So it's still February, which means it's still February. And this week, that's meant, so obviously that was the little wren, was the first February. And then this is Barbara Anna Funky Bird. I really, really love this. So I've done an entirely different colour palette than the pattern calls for. Mine are all, I think they're all classic colourworks that I'm using. And it's much lighter and brighter than the original. And I think it's working really well. This is stitched on 46 count. Which I was going to say it's the first time I've used 46 count. I don't think that's true. It's certainly the first time I've used it in the last 20 years. And I'm surprised actually, my eyes are coping with it much better than I thought they might. And I do really like it, that it's not coming out too enormous. I think that's quite a good thing. So I've still got the wings to finish. There's some little, I can't even think of how to describe them, wiggly doodads that come out of its head, and then it's holding a flower in its beak. But I'm hoping to finish that maybe today, certainly this weekend, and definitely by the end of February. The actual pattern comes with an alphabet, but I'm not going to do that. I just want the bird. So that is Funky Bird by Barbara Anna. Oh, the other thing that I have been doing, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. Let's see if we can focus. The background for both the head and the body, I've just done intense stitch. I don't think it wants to show you that. And I think it works fine on this 46 count. The coverage is fine, and I just like how it's giving a slightly lighter touch. The only place I think you can really see that actually is in the tail, this little bit here. I might go back and see if I can finagle that a bit better, because there seems to be a bit of a white line coming through there. Yeah, super fun pattern. I really like how the chart comes with colour and black and white, and then a sort of double size colour version. So it's been easy to follow. I don't love paper patterns. I really don't. I find it much easier to stitch from an iPad where I can, you know, big it up, magnify, expand, whatever. But actually this has been fine to stitch from the paper pattern. So Barbara Anna Funky Bird, making good progress on that. And then my other work in progress. Do you know, here's the thing. A week ago, I was going away for a couple of days. Oh, I'll tell you about that in a minute. And I didn't have any stitching I could take with me. I had finished the Wren. I hadn't started Funky Bird, and I didn't feel like starting something new on 46 Count was an absolutely ideal travel project. I do still have a Save His Praise in progress, but that's on the floor stand. That is not going anywhere. And I was just like, oh, I haven't got anything I can take with me. Anyway, I mean, I could have started something new, but I just, in that moment of packing, was like, I don't know what to do about that. So anyway, I have Funky Bird, but I also have now a longer term project, slightly longer term project, that I have started in the last couple of days. And this is Tulips and Stars by Yasmin's Made with Love, because this is one of her charity charts that she's designed. Yasmin is running the London Marathon in April because she is crazy, and she is raising money for MenCap. And so one of the ways she's been doing that has been designing a whole range of, there's like, I don't know, 5 or 6, I think, cross-stitch patterns, which if you make a donation, I think there's a minimum donation of £10. If you make a donation, she will send you the chart of your choice. And to encourage people to do that, there is a stitch along, which I'm pleased to say a number of people are joining me with. So we started a couple of days ago on the 23rd of February, because the marathon is on the 23rd of April. And the goal is to be finishing your piece as Yasmin is crossing the finish line, something like that. Anyway, so I'm doing Tulips and Stars. And what I've done to make sure that I stay on track with this, I'm going to put this up here, is I've divided the chart into 8 sections. So if you were to start on the day I think this video is going up, Sunday the 26th, you've got exactly 8 weeks until the marathon. So I've divided the chart that I'm doing into 8 sections. The first section is just the alphabet that's going to go across the top. So that's what I need to get done this week. And then each of the stars and then the alphabet across the bottom. You don't have to do this chart. Any of Yasmin's charts will work. And do use the hashtag YasMarathonSal, and let's cheer each other on, but mostly let's cheer Yasmin on in her training and then as she runs the actual marathon. I feel like this is my way of running a marathon without running a marathon. If you're in need of a way of running a marathon without doing any running, join the stitch along. So I am using, I'm going to use all sulky threads for mine, and I'm using sulky blendables. I think this particular chart really lends itself to nice variegated threads because the designs themselves are very clear and simple and geometric, and there's not, you know, lots of colours interplaying. You've got a nice big block that will really show off a variegated thread. So I haven't got the numbers. I can put them somewhere if anyone's interested in that. And I'm stitching this. I think this is 16 count Ada, might be 18, but I think it's 16, in a sort of sagey green. And I think it's just as Vigart Ada. It's not, it's certainly not hand dyed. But I think that will work quite nicely. So I've chosen very tulipy kind of colours. So all the sort of reds and oranges and yellows from the blendable range. And this is the darkest one that's going to be the alphabet. So that is the Yas Marathon Sal. And I'm planning to try and do, like I say, a section a week to end on April the 23rd. So this work in progress will be around for a while. And it will be a really good portable travel project because it's Ada, because you know, it's not got hundreds of threads. I can just take one thing of sulky with me and still have plenty to do. So I think that will be really good to have that on the go. Right, where are we at now? Hashtag. So I just mentioned hashtag YasMarathonSal. Do join in with that. Do make a donation if you haven't already. Get one of the patterns, join in, at any point, use the hashtag so we can all encourage each other. What else? Small wins Sal. I'll put that across the screen. Small wins Sal. I really like this idea. It was somebody's birthday idea, I think, but you could do it at any point, actually, to set yourself a small target that is achievable. So for me, finishing Funky Bird this weekend, very achievable, but it feels like a win. So rather than saying, oh, you know, I'm going to set myself a challenge of doing 45,000 stitches on this or 27 hours on that, find yourself something small. So it could be a small finish. It could be a small page finish. It could be a small color complete. It could even be, you know, I just want to get that project kitted up. Something you can do within a couple of days that you can say, right, I've done that now. I think that's nice. I like small wins. It's one of the reasons I like stitching smalls, is you get a lot of small wins. But do have a think about that if you need something. I think particularly if you're feeling like you're in a bit of a stitchy slump or everything just seems like it's taking forever, just see if you can think of something that will be a sort of tangible, measurable goal that you think, yeah, do you know what, I could do that this weekend. Small win style. I really like it. It's also Common Threaded Stitcher weekend. It's slightly overwhelming on Instagram, but also really fun and a really nice way of finding other cross stitchers on other Instagrammers, some of them other Flosstubers, other designers. If you look at the Common Threaded Stitcher account, you will see there all the prompts for the weekend. There's 2 prompts every day. It's fine to go in late. And if you look at the Common Threaded Stitcher story, you'll see all the posts linked there. They're very good at sharing everything in the story, so you can go through and think, oh, that looks interesting, and I'll go and look at that person, and so on. So do have a look at that, even if you're not participating, but do participate. It's fine. So yesterday's prompts were local needlework store and favourite work in progress. Well, I don't have a local needlework store. I mean, I have a Hobbycraft, but it's not a needlework store. And so I didn't really post anything for that. Favourite WIP, I felt like I was a bit kind of, well, there's not many to choose from, but okay, here's Funky Bird. And that's fine. You know, you don't have to have loads of stuff to say about all the prompts. And you don't have to do all of them, but you can just jump in as and when you feel like it. So, okay, what am I on to next? Plans. I have some plans. So for March, I can't quite believe it's nearly March, but oh, no, all over the place. There was a story I was going to tell you. Let me just remember. Oh yeah, last weekend I was away. So it's very exciting. In April 2020, can you remember April 2020? I mean, it's a struggle, right? It's a long time ago. In April 2020, I saw advertised the musical of Strictly Ballroom, which was coming to Wolverhampton Grand Theatre, which is, I don't live in Wolverhampton, but it's not far away. And so I put on my Facebook feed, does anyone want to come and see this with me? Because not only was it Strictly Ballroom the musical, but it was also going to be starring Kevin Clifton, which if you've watched Strictly Come Dancing, he's not in it now, but he was always really my favourite pro dancer on Strictly Come Dancing, Kevin from Grimsby. So I just thought that sounded brilliant. And so I put on my Facebook feed, someone wanted to come and see this today. And one of my best friends said, yes, I definitely do. So we booked tickets to go and see it in September 2020. Anyway, roll around September 2020. Turns out you can't go to the theatre in September 2020 for reasons. So we get an email saying, we've had to postpone. We will refund if you want, but also your tickets, if you don't want to refund, we'll just roll your tickets over and you'll be booked in to go and see it in September 2021. So we talked about it and we were like, well, we've already paid. We still want to see it. It'll be nice to have something to look forward to. We'll just roll the tickets over. Come September 2021, turns out we're still in lockdown. So we get another email from the theatre. You know, we will give you a refund if you want, but also we can roll your tickets over. We're going to have it in May 2022. So we're like, okay, well, let's do that. That'll be fine. Come then. I can't remember what was happening in May 2022. I mean, you can see this has been quite a saga. But anyway, tickets are going to be rolled forward, if you want, to February 2023. At which point we were just like, I mean, if we ever get to see this, it feels like it will be a miracle. And I certainly wasn't expecting at that point that it would still have Kevin Clifton in it, because, you know, presumably he has some other commitments, I don't know, or, you know, who knows. Anyway, my main worry at this point had been that we were just going to forget entirely that we had booked tickets to go and see Strictly Ballroom. And indeed, on the day, so we had been quite good at reminding each other, which was good. And on the day, I was searching through all these lengthy email chains, and I'm like, I literally can't find the tickets. I've got the original email which says, we'll send you the tickets, you know, before the performance. And I'd had an email saying, you know, we're looking forward to seeing you at the theatre tomorrow. So I knew we were booked in. But anyway, I couldn't find the tickets. So I had to email them and say, look, please can you send me the tickets? Because we really want to come, and it would be devastating if at this point we didn't actually get to go. Anyway, we did get the tickets and we did get to go, and it was brilliant. I really, really, really recommend it. One thing I would say, it's not very family friendly. So compared to the film, and you should just be aware of this if you are thinking of going, compared to the film, it is much swearier, and also there's just a lot more body on show, I think I would say. There's a very weird dance where the men are all wearing Y-fronts and vests. It's not sexy, but it's also quite disturbing. And, you know, there are bits where women in thongs are shaking their bottoms at you. All of which to say, it's really fun. It's really good. I really do recommend it. You might want to think twice before booking a ticket for, you know, your 8-year-old daughter. That's really where I'm at. And in fact, in the film, you may remember there were 2 children who were learning ballroom dancing who sort of there throughout. There are no children in the stage performance of it. There are more original songs than I was expecting, but good. The big songs that you remember from the film are in the musical. And yeah, I just thought it was brilliant. I think if one were to quibble, the point at which one would quibble would be to say not everyone fully sustains an Australian accent throughout. But it's fine. It really doesn't matter. The Spanish father and grandmother are utterly brilliant. And yeah, the rest of the cast are great as well. And Kevin is Kevin, and that was fab. But yeah, really worth seeing. So I think it's touring. I don't know when it's on or where it's on, but if it's coming near you, and if you love the film Strictly Ballroom, you should definitely go and see it. It's really fun. It's produced by Craig Revel-Horwood and choreographed, I think, by him and Jason Gilkison, who choreographs the pro dancers for Strictly. So it's really, yeah, it's really great. There's a fun bit at the beginning where Craig sort of played over the audio. He's not there, sort of introducing it to you and warning you about the sweariness. Yeah, and doing his Australian accent because he is Australian. Anyway, so Strictly Ballroom. That was my little red herring, but I definitely recommend it. Right, plans, that's what I was talking about. So obviously Tulips and Stars, that's a plan for March, to keep working through that week by week. I also am planning, so this is my March Stitch Your Stash plan. So for me, that is just find a chart that I already owned prior to 2023, really, is what I'm working on. So it can't be something I just bought last week. Something I already owned before this year, and stitch it. And what I am going to do in March, which I've been talking about for ages and is now fully kitted up and I'm going to start, is Cottage Garden Samplings, Year in the Woods, Jack Rabbit. Now, a Jack Rabbit is a hare, basically. It's a kind of hare. So I'm going to be calling this my March Hare project. See what I did there? I like that. I like that. Now, I was going to look up before I came on to do this, but I forgot. There is a hashtag that is going around about bunnies. And I think I'm going to sneak in with that and pretend that my hair is a bunny. But it is also a March hare, and that's why I'm stitching it. So if you want to stitch a bunny, I will find that hashtag and put it in the description below. If you want to stitch a rabbit, if you want to stitch a hare with me, that would be a fun thing to do in March. And obviously there's lots of very seasonal patterns that would fit in with that. Lots of Easter patterns, lots of spring patterns. So that seems like a good time of year to be stitching that, even though mine is not really seasonal. It's seasonal because it's a hare, and therefore it's a March hare. I haven't got that here to show you, but anyway, you've seen that pattern before. Maybe I'll put a picture up there just to remind you, but you know what that looks like. So that is a plan for March. And then the other thing which I do plan to stitch in March, or at least start in March, is the model for my next medieval menagerie project. So you remember we've had cat snails, we've had elephantine, and now we are going to have fish-ish. So it's medieval sea creatures and water creatures, and some of them look a bit like fish, but not really. So they are fish-ish. I quite enjoy that. I've got the pattern charted, but as you know, I am not very good at following patterns, even my own. So it's likely to change as I stitch it. And yeah, I don't know quite how long this. I would have thought we're looking at April, really, at least, before this is released. But I will let you know. I'm also, this is just a little side note as well, very excited to be taking part in a secret project. It's secret, so I can't tell you about it, but my contribution to it is, I think, going to be another medieval menagerie. Quite excited about that. So there is going to be 3 in the main series, and then certainly, I think, at least one other, and then maybe others to come after that. We will see. So those are my main plans: Tulips and Stars, Cottage Garden Samplings, Jackrabbit, March Hare, and model stitch for Fish-ish. I have finished stitching my spring jack. If you haven't yet downloaded the winter jack, you still got 2 or 3 weeks to do that. But on March 21st, spring equinox, I will be uploading the spring pattern, and I need to film. I'm going to film a finishing tutorial. So for the winter jack, there was a little flag finish. This is going to be a different kind of finish for the spring one. And I'm going to film a tutorial showing you how to do that. So that will be coming in March. Right, what else? Oh, now, this is not really on the plans list, but I really, 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 really want to do it straight away. It might end up being April. But as a result of, well, 2 things, you know, YouTube random recommendations and also Common Threaded Stitcher, I have in the last 24 hours binge watched an entire Flosstube channel. Now, to be fair, I think there's only 5 videos on it, but even so, I've watched it all in the last 24 hours. And that is from a lady called Deborah, who is the Kensington Stitcher. I really, really enjoyed her channel. So many things that I was just like, yes, I agree. Why doesn't anyone else say that? And yeah, just, I really like her aesthetic. I really like her presentation. I really like everything about her. And I feel like I've been quite stalkerish, and I've been messaging her on Instagram, and I've been like, I want to be your friend. Anyway, enabled by her. I've been enabled by her in lots of things, actually. But this is the one that I most want to stitch straight away. I'm going to put a picture of it here. That is English paper pieced cross-stitch hexagons flamingos. What is not to love about that? I mean, that is amazing. So this is a project by Kathy Haberman of Hands On Design. And so Deborah, I think, had come across this in like maybe a club box or a subscription or an advent calendar or something like that. Something anyway where the chart was exclusive. And so it wasn't this pattern, but it was the same idea, also designed by Kathy Haberman, of English paper pieced cross-stitch things. And it looked amazing. And then she said, but you know, you can't get that out. But what you can get is this. Now, this is in a magazine called American Patchwork and Quilting, something like that. It's not the most recent edition of that. So if you're in America and you see that on the newsstands, it won't be in the one that's on the newsstands at the moment. But if you have Readly, I have Readly, you can find it there. Probably if you have some other form of digital magazine subscription, maybe you find it in that. I don't know. But I found it in Readly, and I have instantly put this really near the top of my to-do list. I love the flamingos, and I really love that concept of combining crafts. So it's obviously got the cross stitch. It's also got the paper piecing. There's also a little bit of embroidery around the paper piecing. So you applique your patchwork onto a base fabric, and then there's a little bit of embroidery in the sort of edges around that. And then obviously you sew it together and finish it into a pillow. I just think it's brilliant. I think it's so brilliant. I really want to design 100 of these now. I think that may be easier said than done. Anyway, so that's super fun. Patchwork flamingos. Like I say, I might not start that this month, even though I really want to. I've been putting off starting Jackrabbit for so long. I just have to do that. And I do need to do model stitching, and I'm committed to the Yasmin's Marathon sale. So, yeah, I might not get to it, but they're only little. I could do like little tiny ones here and there. We'll see. Which brings me on to what I wanted to tell you about some Flosstubers I've been watching. So Kensington Stitcher, I'm going to put a link down below, not just to the channel, but to a specific episode that I really recommend. And this is one where she's talking about stitching patterns from continental European designers. So she's in America, I'm in the UK. She's not talking about where do you find, you know, British cross-stitch designers. She's talking about how do you find designs by French or German or Italian or other continental European cross-stitch designers. And there's a number that she recommends, and she shows you quite a lot of them have their work published in books rather than individual charts, which is kind of tricky because the book is obviously more expensive and you don't know exactly what's going to be in it before you get it. And the thing that really turned a switch in my mind, she said, if you just think about it as an adventure, then it's fine, isn't it? And I quite like that. I like the idea of a cross-stitching adventure. Anyway, I have ordered 2 books as a result of watching her video. One from a German designer. So the design company is called UB Designs. And I think UB are the initials of the designer, but I can't remember her name. So I've ordered Meine kleine Wohnung, my little house, something like that. I have a little house. Looking forward to that. And I've also ordered from a French designer, and this was very easy. You can order this on Amazon. She explains where you can order all of these things in the video, but some of them are available on Amazon. Some of them are available in English translations. But as she points out, once you've got a cross-stitch chart, I mean, you know, nice to be able to read like the introduction and the story around it, but actually you can still stitch it, you know, particularly if you've got DMC thread numbers or colours. You know, what else do you need? Do you know what I mean? I mean, we know how to cross stitch from a chart. So this one is in French. That was in German. This was in French from a designer called Hélène Lebert. And the book is called, I'm going to attempt this in French, Monochrome et Camille. And it means monochrome and tonals, something like that. So they're all stitches either with a single colour or a sort of tonal range of blues or pinks or something like that. And they look so pretty. She showed 1 or 2 of them in the video and I'm like, I want that book. So those, but also she recommended, one of the websites that she recommended is called Casa Sanina. I will put the link below. And you can set this as a website to show you the descriptions in English, which is quite helpful because it's not always immediately obvious whether you're looking at a cross-stitch book or an embroidery book, but the description will tell you in English, so you can be sure about that. And I just want to point out 2 freebies that I found on that site that I've never seen mentioned anywhere before that are just beautiful. So you do have to put your email address in and then they send it to you, but they are stunning. And they're both by a designer called Marie-Thérèse Saint-Aubin. I think she's French. She sounds like she could be, you know, in Versailles. And they are beautiful. So this is Il Pleut. And I thought when I downloaded this, I was just going to get the pattern for the umbrella, which is really what I wanted. But actually, all the writing is charted as well. So if you wanted to do that whole thing, you could do that. I assumed it was on printed fabric, but it's not. It's all stitched. And just, I think it's quite an indicative piece of the sort of thing that Deborah was talking about in her video, the very understated, delicate elegance that a lot of these continental European designers have as their style, which is quite different from a lot of what you see in British and American designers. So that's Il Pleut. And then there's also this one by the same designer. This is called Abécédaire Redouté. And it is these beautiful, subtle roses with leaves with that alphabet in the middle. But you could, if you wanted to, you could not do the alphabet and you could put like a name or something like that in the middle. I need to stitch a wedding sampler soon. That might be a good starting place. Anyway, so I put the links to those directly, as well as the link to Casa Sanina for the website as a whole. But do go and watch Deborah's video because it's really helpful. Lots of really great advice on what to look for and where to look for it, and easy ways in, unusual ways in, via Japan of all things. Yeah, but I recommend her other videos too. Like I say, there's only 5 altogether, including that one. And yeah, I think she's great. I really like her. And I was also going to mention, and these have been on my mind to mention for ages. I only just discovered Kensington Stitcher 2 days ago, but these are people I've been watching for a little while, a few weeks or months. But I've been enjoying a lot as well. Stem X Stitch. So Stem X Stitch, whose name I now can't remember. I apologise. She is a grad student, PhD student in bioengineering, hence the Stem X Stitch name for her channel. And I love her aesthetic. I really like it. She really stitches beautiful, contemporary, sometimes geeky, sometimes sciencey, but also not always, bright, bold designs. The video of hers I recommend starting with is her Finish Parade. So she only started stitching in 2020, and she does in that video literally everything she has ever stitched, including some embroideries. And she talks about how she sort of shifted from embroidery to cross stitch and why. She does still do occasional embroideries, but they're very simple, with just satin stitches. So yeah, really fun, really interesting. She's very into numbers. So she begins every video by telling you how many cross stitches, individual stitches, she has stitched in her entire life. There's some tracking going on there. You know, there's organisation, there's tracking, but there's also really fun stitching. And when she's talking about science communication, she's really passionate about that, and I enjoyed that a lot. I've also enjoyed Stitch and Chill. Stitch and Chill. She is more at the sort of, I never quite know which words are which. I want to say at the nerdy end of geeky, but I might have that the wrong way around. So she is a videographer, so her videos are obviously beautiful. And she stitches quite a lot of, yeah, what I want to call geeky / nerdy things. So at the moment, for example, she's got one which is a 2 switch remotes, but stitched in really beautiful kind of Quaker Fair Isle-ish sort of designs. She's stitching the landscape of Schitt's Creek. Yeah, so all sorts of things. But I like her. Her videos are much shorter than a lot of cross-stitch videos. Updates on what she's been stitching, but also because it's Stitch and Chill, she talks a bit about what she's been watching, what she's been reading, those sorts of things. So go and check those out. Kensington Stitcher, Stitch and Chill, Stem X Stitch. They have been things I've been watching a lot lately. Right. I think we're getting there, actually. That is new release. Please go and buy it. Mothers of Invention, finished objects, WIPs, hashtags, plans, recommendations, freebies. I think we are now at the stage of the video where I'm just going to say thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more of my tiny house, if you'd like to see how I have some of my things organised and how I have some of my things displayed, let's rescue that. It looks like my filming setup is about to collapse anyway, so I'm going to say goodbye here and thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Come and say hello on Instagram and subscribe there if you like. Do like this video and do come back again next time. I'll leave you now with previous me doing a voiceover. So I've just been tidying up and doing a little bit of spring cleaning and reorganizing my craft storage in the house. So I thought I might show you the sort of corner of the house where I've got things on display. So here you can see that's a picture of the farm where I live as it was in about the 1980s, early 1980s, I think. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can see this building here. Quite a lot of that is knocked down and what is left is now my house. So that's where I am now. Quite a lot of those farm buildings are also knocked down and some have been converted into houses as well as mine. Empty frame here. I just went to IKEA at the weekend, so I've got some plans for that, but it's just sitting there. These are little fabric bags that I screen printed, that's the word I'm looking for, at a workshop a few years ago. And then in the workshop we also made them into these little bags with contrast bottoms and hooks, and they've got some of my very small amount of my yarn collection is in there. This is a collage piece that I made in my art class a few years ago. So you scrape acrylic paint onto the paper using like an old gift card or something like that to give it that texture with different colours. And then I did that obviously in several colours, cut them out, made the collage, and then sort of did a very loose sort of drawing around the shape. I really like how that turned out. So that's there. I've got a magazine rack here. I think this is from TK Maxx. This is where I have my printer, so it's got the printer paper. I was using this as a cross-stitch journal last year, but I've been keeping notes just in my normal planner this year, and then some other papers and things. This is my IKEA cart. This had all my cross-stitch stuff in it until yesterday, and so now it's got glues and various kinds of sticky tape and washi tape. Down here it has got paints and paintbrushes and art pencils and that sort of thing, and a palette, and underneath is where I keep all my cables. So this is an antique blanket box. I'm not going to get it out. What it has got in it is fibre for spinning and also now some of my yarn. I've been putting all my yarn away because I've got a problem with my hand. For the last year or so I haven't been able to do any knitting or crocheting, and it was just quite miserable having it looking at me. So yeah, this is an old bureau that came from somebody who is a member of my church, and he died, and the family just asked the church if they wanted anything from the house before it all just went to clearance. So I got this and I have painted it. You know, it was old sort of dark wood. I painted it in this sort of chalk paint blue. I'm not going to show the inside, it's very messy, but you can see what I did in terms of painting the inside. So here we have, this is an old sort of tray. It's got a handle here that I bought from a junk shop just before Christmas. It's got various things in it. It's got my little Creatures Great and Small miniature cross-stitch animals book. It's got, like I say, various bits and pieces. I think this little bunch of dried flowers came in a caterpillar cross-stitch kit when I was in their club last year. I do love my little parrot. You've got to have a parrot, obviously. This you'll recognise my cat snails pillow. I'm not sure that's going to stay there, but that's where that is for the moment. This is just a box where I keep all my greetings cards, and you can see a lot of this is quite functional stationery. The picture behind, that's one that I did, well, it was before my nephew was born. I would think that's probably 11 or 12 years old now. I still really like it. And you'll see later, if you haven't already recognised, I do have a cross-stitch piece based on not just this quote, but actually some of the images on there as well. That is just done with felt tips on a canvas that I bought. You can use alcohol markers, but ordinary felt tips work really well. It's a nice thing to do with children, actually, if you're wanting them to make something for parents or grandparents. Yeah, they can draw and then colour in on a canvas, and it's a bit more long-lasting than just a card. You might not want long-lasting. Up here, various bits of storage things. My pig's keeping control of Martin Luther Playmobil. On the top of these little storage things, these are the 3D cutouts that I made in Morocco, the mountains and then also the buildings, and you can see there's some colour on the buildings. So that's that, and then just some books. Here, these were part of my Christmas present, actually. These are really beautiful hand-bound journals that I need to, they're the sort of journals where I'm slightly feeling, oh, I must find something special enough to use them for, and I might never use them. But anyway, so they, you know, they're just plain paper, but they're bound with, and it's got little pockets inside, covers of old books, and then the beautiful hand-stitch binding. So yeah, my mum bought me 3 of those for Christmas. They are lovely. So this house, this is an original wall, and the beams here. Above the beam was just some plaster board that they put in when they converted this to a house. But this wall here is very thick brick, and that means it's got very wide lintels above the door. On the other side of this I have books. I mean, it's basically another bookshelf. But here I've got, yeah, my house is called The Old Shed, so that's why I have that. I have my elephantine framed, finished there. I really love that piece. Really love, I think those elephants are just adorable. And then we come on to the main cross stitch area. So I'm going to show you all my stuff on the wall and then show you my story. So here, I'm fine, it's fine, I'm fine, everything is fine. That was stitched with some Leo and Roxy Flossco, as it then was, Roxy Flossco thread and Coffee Craft Company fabric. There are a lot of days where that's the case. This is a little shelf I bought recently from B&M. I did have a few Christmas things on it. I'm now not quite sure what to put in it, and I might move it. This next piece, this is an embroidery rather than cross stitch. I did this a few years ago. It's based on a colouring book design from one of Johanna Basford's colouring books. I used to read, I still occasionally read Needle and Thread blog quite a lot, and she was doing a piece based on one of the colouring books designs, and I thought that was a brilliant idea. Then we've got Teresa Kogut Wilbur. I love Wilbur. I love it. I love it. It's printed fabric from Fabric Flair, I think, and then dyed with sort of coffee and tea and a drop of red food colouring, and then Wilbur stitched on front of that. This you'll have seen quite recently. This is Flower Friends Bertie from Satsuma Street, and I showed you how I did the finish for that. This is the newest addition to the hoop wall. This is Berry Patch by Hello from Liz Matthews, heavily adapted by me to make it round, and changed all the colours, inspired by Marimi Crafts, Mariam, her birthday Sal, wildcard BD Sal, to change all the colours there. I really like that. Then my clock's not very interesting. Then coming over, this is sort of above the other door, my bathroom door. This is from Pigeon Coop Designs. This was a caterpillar cross stitch club kit, which I foolishly decided to stitch on some very, very tiny fabric and made a lot of mistakes and made it a lot more difficult for myself than I needed to. I still like it, but I would think twice about doing it the way I did it, honestly. This is another piece from art class, a lovely collage in a colour wash sort of way. And again from art class, this was a piece based on architecture, and I'm just going to show you. It's just foam board, but you can see it's lots of layers of foam board to give it a sort of 3D effect. It was really fun to do. I really enjoyed that. Above the back door, this is a piece that I do want to do more of this actually. I really enjoy doing this. So it is an old table runner with lace around the edges. It was a little bit stained and a little bit holey, and so all I've done is stitched lots and lots and lots of bits of fabric on it basically, and I've sort of clustered them to make impressionist kind of flowers against the background. And then I bought a big canvas and painted it the same colour as the walls so that it would fade in. It hasn't quite worked as well as I hoped, but it's fine. That's also an art class piece based on, I was doing some work on Gerhard Richter. The thing I love about this, and I don't know if you can really see it, but I'm going to go in. There are quite a lot of Tunnocks tea cakes wrappers in this piece. So it's sort of mixture of collage and painting, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So these are two of my patterns. All Good in the Spinsterhood, which came out before Christmas. Mothers of Invention, which is coming out round about now. I'm not sure quite when this video is going up. I've got a frame, you'll see underneath. That's for the next one in that series. So Mothers of Invention, All Good in the Spinsterhood. Moving along. This is a little freebie chart, all the single ladies. You'll find that on my Instagram. This is by Hannah's Stitching, Hannah Cornish. But I'm very poorly today and very stupid and hate everybody and everything. I, again, reworked it. So if you get the chart, you'll see it doesn't look quite like this. I moved some of the insects around and I took the name and date off the quote. This was my Smalls exchange that I received at the Stitch in London retreat. Thank you from also Hannah, but a different Hannah. This beautiful butterfly. It's lovely. It's stitched 1/1 on really, really tiny fabric. I mean, it's just beautiful. It came with the hoop, that's how she done it, but actually I took it off and painted the hoop, and I like that even more, I think, against my yellow wall. This is Hello from Ms. Matthews, one of her Celebration Smalls, little freebie. Again, you'll be starting to see a pattern here. I changed it. The original was not designed for a round finish, but I quite like that. And then some little dyed silk ribbon that I stitched on around the edge of it. This is a print from a local gallery. I really love the neon colours in that. This is a poster of Bridget Riley painting that I've had for years and years and years and years. And I love it because it basically goes in any room, in any colour. This one is moving actually. I've had this up for a while. This is another art class piece that's collage. I've got a different art class piece that is that goes there, but it's just out in the car at the moment. I need to change that. Coming along, these are just some prints either that I've bought or that people have bought for me. This is my TV. I'm not going to focus on it because it does weird things on the screen, but it's a Samsung frame TV that you can put art on, so that you don't have a big blank screen in the middle of your wall. And you can see I've got a white frame. You can get the frame in a range of different colours so it will fit. So it just means it fits within what I like to think of as my gallery wall without there just being a big black hole of TV. So I like that quite a lot. Now this is new under here. So this is my little sewing table. Not sure if I can just open it without knocking everything off. So yeah, not very well organised. Anyway, little sewing table, and on that, this is a new little tray. I was at IKEA, as I said at the weekend. This was in their clearance section. It is the Updaterer range. I think it's designed for putting like long kitchen implements in, you know, your sort of big spoons or ladles or whatever. But I think it works really well as a little sort of smalls tray. So this is a biscornu that I made by Tiny Modernist, with these little gnomes. This is the piece that I designed for Stitch in London. That was a freebie for everyone who attended. A little fun thing. You can see that was the first in the Union Jack series. So this is the winter one. Again, this is currently available as a freebie via my Instagram. It'll only be there for a few more weeks, and then the spring one will appear. Little tomato pincushion. This is my most recent finish. This was from charts that I bought in a charity shop, actually. It's called Button Up Birdie by the Victoria Sampler, and this is the wren. The pattern does come with like a branch and a tree coming across there that you do in embroidery stitches rather than cross stitches. And I've got others, and I might do some like that, but I quite like this one, just the little tiny wren having a bath. And I stuck it on a piece of mat board, and then stuck that onto, you can see all of these little wooden circles on a big circle there. All the wood bits were from Hobbycraft, and it's all just glued together. There's my other cat snail with his Claudia Winkleman fringe. And then this is the piece that is the same quote as the canvas that I've got. Life is the most wonderful fairy tale. And there's the same little Red Riding Hood. And then all these other little fairy tale, the frog and Aladdin's lamp. There's Puss in Boots and the three little pigs. And this is Hansel and Gretel's house, and so on. And on top it's got a mushroom with a little fairy. Inside, gingerbread man needleminder from Caterpillar Cross Stitch, and various other bits. It has a pincushion at the bottom. It's really supposed to be a sort of stitching pot, but it ends up being just a random storage pot a lot of the time. That pattern is not available for purchase. It may be one day, but it won't be anytime soon. When I stitched it, I just used a lot of random threads from Stash. There are about 4,000 colours in there. I didn't stitch it very closely according to the chart that I'd drawn up, so it would need quite a lot of work to make it a pattern that I could distribute to other people. I might do it one day, but it's not anywhere near top of my list. I'm sorry. So, coming along, this is Penelope Penguin. Some of you will have seen her before. She's all dressed up, ready for party time. And then underneath, so this is my what is this, IKEA Tromfast, I want to say. Now, until yesterday, this was all yarn and knitting related items, and so that's what I've moved out. This drawer here is still knitting tools, so it's not really yarn, but it's needles and ball winders and sock blockers and stuff like that. The rest of it is now all cross stitch related, so I'm going to show you what I've got in these different drawers. So this is project bags and kitted up projects. So quite a lot of these are empty. I recently went to the Kay Facet exhibition at the Fashion and Textile Museum in London, and I bought these couple of little pouches with Kay Facet quilts on them. They have not got anything in them at the moment. Some other project bags. This you'll have seen before, is one of my favourite things that I made last year. Is a sort of travel cross stitch project thing. That's got, I think that's got Cottage in the Woods Jack Rabbit that I want to do next month. This has got all the stuff for A Saviour's Praise in it, this big one. Yeah, and then there's more project bags at the back there. I currently have one work, that's not true. I have one work in progress and A Saviour's Praise. So I have two works in progress. So there are quite a lot of empty project bags in there, although some have got kitted up projects in. This drawer is charts mostly, also kind of purchased kits that I haven't started. So not things I have kitted up, but things that came kitted up. And then mostly it's charts. I don't buy a lot of printed charts. I prefer PDFs. So there aren't hundreds in there. And it's also got there my DMC colour chart with all the actual threads in it. This drawer, this is all my Ada and also a little bit of perforated paper, and this is all my linens and even weaves. I do keep even quite small pieces because I like stitching smalls, And I like stitching tiny smalls, so you never know when you're going to need a bit. This bit here, I'm pretty sure this is from, yeah, this is my piece that I have from Roxy Floss Co, which I'm waiting to find something really perfect to put on that. Okay, and then moving across, finally, we have got, so this is drawer of items which might be useful for finishing. I love this big round wooden button. It's meant to be a coaster, but I feel like there must be something that one could put in there. Even actually, one of the things I want to do with this little tray, I've got Keeper of the Pins by Brenda Gervais, and I want to do a number of sort of sewing related smalls. So actually, I might even just put a couple of these big buttons in there as they come. This is from IKEA. It's meant to be a lid, but I think it would be a really nice sort of finish for something. These stars I found in my local charity shop for, I think, 75p each. I've got some hoops because I like a hoop frame. But then I've also got in here some bits of trim and things for making floss bling, and that's my bag with lavender and crushed walnut shells in it. This drawer is everything for sending out my cross-stitch cards. All the envelopes as well as the cards and the stamps are in there. These are finished items that are not currently on display. So you can see there is sort of Christmassy things, this very summery one, this Stitch in London one. This is a needle felted piece that I did, and more Christmassy things. What's in here? Oh, these are things waiting to be finished, and a frame that didn't fit in the finishing drawer. And this is, oh, this is another finished item, not a cross stitch, that I didn't have space for. You can see I've got room in these drawers to expand. That used to be on my wall for a long time, and it might well be again in the future. It's a sort of textile collage, I suppose. And then you think, but Ros, where are all your threads? Here are my threads. This is not all of my threads. So this is my Classic Colourworks collection. I am in a Classic Colourworks club. I think I'm on to about D. They send them alphabetically, but I have also got quite a number of others that I've just bought separately for other projects. This is fancy flosses that are not Classic Colourworks. So here I've got some Gentle Arts and some Steph Francis, some Roxy Floss Co, some Gentle Arts, and some of these Cottage Garden threads, bits and pieces. Then I have got, this is quite a recent acquisition. These are from Paintbox threads. There's a big difference between Paintbox with a hyphen and Paintbox without a hyphen. Anyway, these are beautiful. These are pearl cotton, and I've got some Christmas patterns that I want to stitch up with those. I've also put together a little sulky collection that match those Paintbox threads, and I might see how well they combine. I've got a box here which has got metallic threads in it. That's left over from a Stitch in London project. And I've also got my sort of loose random skeins of DMC. That is not the best way of storing those. But anyway, so that's what I've got in there. I have also got, can't show you, well, maybe I can. Just come with me under the sofa. That is 2 boxes which represent the complete collection of sulky threads. And just a little bit further around here, 5 boxes of bobbinated anchor floss. So it's not absolutely a complete collection of anchor because I've used quite a lot up that I haven't replenished, but it's pretty full on. So if I'm doing stitching where I just want to pull from stash and it's not something I want to use fancy floss for, that's what I generally will use. So I think that is it. I'm not showing, am I showing you? No, I'm not trying to show you where I sit and stitch because you'll be able to see my kitchen, and my kitchen is an absolute mess. So I'm showing you a very carefully selected section of my house. I know the flowers are dead. I quite like dead flowers. Yeah, I know I'm weird. Anyway, they will get changed at some point. And there is my gallery wall and my hoop wall. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing that.